Thank you. I don't know if that's, so we're recording the session now. I didn't hit the record button earlier on. We'll make this available for those who are unable to join live at this time. Sorry, just before I broke the thought, again, no special skill. Translation is done in the browser. You only need internet connectivity, a computer, and a couple of other things, which we'll talk about, the camera and the mic, just to be able to interact and have conversations like this. So formal and informal maths teacher, English, and for connectivity's sake, you need to be able to connect to the internet. Of course, we are all present on this call, so I expect we all have that feature. I can see some of us already have our cameras switched on during the synchronous meetings where we connect. The goal is to be able to collaborate, learn from our shared experiences, and also support each other on this translation journey, both in terms of the technical use of the language, but also beyond the language, there are commonalities across translating into languages. So we'll share that, and being able to interact and see each other is something we prioritize. So we expect you have a computer that is connected to the internet, that has a camera and a mic. So you are able to see, we can see you, and we can interact and connect. And that's about the tool you require to be able to support in making this available. And here are the list of priority languages that I mentioned earlier on for West Africa. So this is currently in the third cohort. I know there are people joining us who have supported efforts in the past in their locale. We'll come to address some of the questions you might have further down the line. But like I said earlier on, we've made significant progress in about 15 to 17 African languages at the moment. Some of them are almost at 100% translation. For simulations, we're going to be translating on two resources. One is the simulation that the majority of us are conversant with. So sims are what students and teachers use directly. But there's another side as well that is equally as important, which we call the teacher tips. The teacher tips helps teachers and educators better understand the design and consideration behind the sim, how the controls work, recommended teacher tips. And that's another component that we're going to be working on. So in priority language, I know Solomon speaks Amharic, right? And yeah, exactly. So I would expect, if that's the priority, we'll answer that later on. So we've made effort in Amharic, and there's really no immediate need for Amharic in terms of sims, except but for the newly published sims, which we should be around 3 or 4. And but then there are opportunities around the teacher tips, and that's where some of the effort will be. But beyond, I just said that to say these are the priority languages for now. If for any reason you've not seen your language for the West African region, we have Bambara, we have Ewe, and this is from Ghana and around the Benin Republic region, and we have Wolof. In the Southern African region, we have Malagasy, we have Shona, we have Swana, we have Tosa, and then Zulu. And then East African region, we have Amharic to close the gaps. And we have Kikuyu, Kirundi, Lingala, Somali, and Tigrinya. I hope I pronounced that right. And just like I mentioned earlier on, we've had requests from locales that are currently not listed, but a teacher believes it's going to be impactful to have the resources available in that language. So if you fall in that category, if we've not identified your locale, or we've not prioritized that, we might be able to support that if. So there are locales or languages that we currently support that do not require additional engineering work. So if it falls within that standard organization list of languages, then we can directly support them right there and now. But if it's a little out of like the priority language or languages we currently support, then we most likely would have to batch or push that to a later stage. We'll be happy to entertain or consider that request. But yeah, we'll take it on. If we can address it now, we'll consider that and add it on. If we have to wait till later to complete some engineering work to be able to support that, we'll push that till further down. And once we are able to support that, we'll get in touch with you and we can get that started. And for the program component, applications opened about a week ago and will stay open up until the 20th of May, which is about 3 weeks away. And in about a week, by the 26th, we expect to have gotten back to everyone who applied, and there'll be clarity around the languages, invitation to the community, both on WhatsApp and of course, a couple of exchanges via email. And the effort will start from the 1st of June, around the first Wednesday in June, up until the end of July. So activities would run for about 2 months, and we'll talk about in specific details what to expect within the 2 months. So the first month primarily we'll prioritize, of course, introducing you to PhET themes, how to translate, some of the things to consider, and common best practices. For example, why you can see data, and that can mean something else. And for students, that can mean having credit on your phone, but for you, it might be data in terms of numbers on screen. So some of those nuances or some of the things we've noticed over time, how to capture all of that in terms of the common ways where meaning might have changed based on common use, how to avoid such people. So we'll take some time to discuss all of that. Quality assurance is another strong component of the work, where we support and collaborate with each other, as well as teachers within your network. So if you're translating in your locale, and you also have teachers within your school, they can also contribute or review the work you've done to be sure like we're not missing anything out. There's component around cultural relevance. Then at the end of the 1 week, by the end of the first week, we expect that you develop a personal translation plan and then a monitoring plan. And for the second month, which is July, and it takes about, for the second month, for the first month, sorry, like I mentioned, the first meeting is going to last for about just 2 hours, and that's all we have to meet synchronously, where we all have to get on a call like this for the first month. All of the other interaction and support you receive will be via WhatsApp. So if you need live support, if you have questions, you can post directly to the group. All the members of the team, as well as the larger community, those who have supported, who are from the previous cohorts, as well as everyone on the call, definitely will be able to support and answer questions you might have, because some of the experiences are shared. They've all had some of those experiences or challenges or questions, and they'll be happy to support as well. And for the second month, at the start of the month as well, we'll have another 1-hour meeting. So in total, that's about 3 hours of synchronous time. And that's about it for synchronous meeting, as in meetings where we have to meet live together. But on average, as a component of the network, we expect or advise or encourage that you please contribute approximately 5 hours a month, as in for as many who can do more, of course, we will be happy to continue to support. And something that I say all the time is translation or supporting a locale is, for us, non-ending. As much as we appreciate the 5 hours, that's significant. If you're able to complete 5 SIMs, 10 SIMs, or we've seen people who support and complete the entire set of SIMs in their locale, it means students can use the entire thing. Definitely will work and support you true and true. But if at the least the minimum time you have is about around 5 hours or more, then that's like sufficient time to be able to meet the minimum expectation or requirement for the fellowship. So for the second month, we put in first month. In the first month, once the training is done, you can get right from the first meeting. The takeaway would be to be able to translate your first SIM. So it's that simple. Within a browser, on average, a SIM takes about 30 minutes to 2 hours to translate. So it's possible that you're able to complete your first SIM in that day during the very first meeting. So we'll discuss peer review questions you have with the network gathering to discuss progress and challenges you faced. And at the end of the month, I might have missed that out, which is an optional component. We'll have a final event, which is a cohort celebration event, where of course we review the work we've done, celebrate the successes we've achieved together, and then you can apply for a certificate to recognize the effort you've put in to make the resource available in your locale, in your language. So when I say locale, it's pretty much mean language. So for the application component, it's pretty much a free form. You get a couple of questions. Some primarily are just a few things around you, who you are, the subjects you teach, or something around your education background. why would you want to be part of the PhET Translator network, your current professional network, and how that can support the your current activities to translate the resource into your language. And also, we also would like to have your CV or your resume to just, of course, identify the best fit and a few questions around the languages you speak as well, and to what degree you speak. And that's about it. So it's a very easy and straightforward form. On average, I expect that it can be completed in an hour or less. And if you have questions while you are doing it, we also would be happy to take your questions. If you're unable to answer it on this call, just write to us, and we'll be happy to get to it. Sorry, excuse me. So what we are looking for primarily is applicants we expect should have evidence of teacher practice, familiarity with PhET themes, and then STEM education preparation. So just around these three components, you should be involved in education to a degree to be able to understand a lot of the interaction or the significance of what you will be doing. Understanding or use of PhET in the past is also helpful. It means you understand what a sim is trying to say beyond what the word is. You understand the objective or what it's trying to communicate, and you can effectively interpret or integrate that. One of the things we do is, as much as you're translating text, you're also trying to capture the context, you're trying to capture the essence, you're trying to capture a whole lot of things in a few words. So knowledge of that is important, and your experience with any of the discipline. So if you're teaching biology, we expect that you prioritize and work on biology sims. But if you're comfortable working across the breadth of the subjects, then that's very allowed as well. But ease of use or understanding each of the subject domain is also one important criteria that we're looking at, and we're going to work with you and support that process. And why should you become a member of the PhET Translator network? One of them is, of course, professional growth. Contributing can help increase access and contribute to support your leadership efforts, of course, as an educator through translation, just a different pathway to, I'm sure, of efforts and of pathways that you're already exploring. You can also become part of this highly motivated network. Like I mentioned, we have members from previous communities who are also on this call to support. And everyone who will be joining the network will be joining the larger community. So there's a whole lot of interaction and ongoing support and connection and exchange between them as well. Influence as well. You can also leverage this to develop, of course, grow your influence in your subject domain or in education generally across your locale, in your country, and recognition at the end of the day, of course, be identified as an education leader. Sorry, excuse me, and receive validated certificates to justify, to show it for the to support the effort and time you put into supporting translation into your locale. And I know that's a lot of questions within this time. We've kept it short. So now I know Peter has been waiting to ask his question. This is a good time to ask the questions you might have. And of course, I'm sure that might take us in a different direction, but we've saved enough time to address and answer all the questions, and we'll see where that leads us at the end of the day. So thank you, Peter, for waiting. This is a good time to ask. Hi, Peter, are you still with us? I'm not sure if Peter has his video on or is frozen. So while we wait, I can see Mama. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your virtual hand, and we'll just take turns to answer all the questions you might have. Mama Kamisi is asking, I'm already a translator. I am already a PhET translator translating into Sesotho. Do I have to apply again to access other sims to translate? No, Mama Kamisi, you are already part of the network. So of course, like you know, you already have, you've already completed the training, you already have access, you're already a trusted translator, so you have privileged access to the PhET the translation utility. So you do not need to be part of the, you do not need to, you're already part of the network. So you don't need any additional efforts to be part of the network. So that does not apply. But in terms of continued support, definitely we welcome that. And within the group or community, we can continue the conversation in there. Thank you, Peter. I think you are back. Are you still with us? Hi, Peter. Do you have a question? Your hand is raised. Okay, I'm not sure Peter is with us. Does anyone else have questions? Okay, Titus.
Yes.
Yeah, Titus, please unmute and ask.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening,
Titus. Yes, we hear you good. Hi, Titus, we hear you good.
Okay. My name is Titus. I'm calling from Nigeria. It's not a question that I want to ask. I want to commend the PhET Global Initiative team for selecting some major languages in Africa for it to be localized into our PhET website. And another language that I see as much importance is the Ewe language, which is spoken by majority of West African people, including Western Nigeria. Example, those who are very close to Badagry. But although the language is domiciled in Ghana, it's also being spoken by Togolese as well as the people in Benin Republic. So I really encourage people to be part of this translation network. And we also see it as a way of helping the local language to be localized to the larger community so that the indigenous African languages will not be extinct. And it also for educational purpose, because the African as a continent is multilingual, especially within the sub-Saharan region. So we can use more than one language to communicate these basic sciences to our students, even though we have the English language as the major one in the PhET translation network or the website. So we can combine our local language with the content, with the knowledge of the content, and English language as well to teach and educate our people. This will really help those who are less privileged or those who are living in the remote areas to learn science concepts effectively. So I really appreciate these efforts for adding that language away. Although I was part of the team before, I would also like to share my experience with these new cohorts that are coming in to learn and also to execute this project for the betterment of younger ones who are learning these sciences in secondary and primary school. So thank you so much for creating this network for us within the sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much, Titus. Thank you for your contribution always. And we're excited about the new languages as well. And we look forward to your continued support.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Peter, are you ready to ask your question now? Okay, Peter, I think your audio is not connected if you can hear us. I just had the look. Please feel free to write in the chat, write your message in the chat or use the Q&A feature, the question and answer feature, and I'll be happy to read it out and still ensure you get answers to any question you might have. And we'll go to Titus now. I think this is another Titus. Titus, hello, please unmute and ask your question.
Everyone.
Hi, can you speak a little louder, please? We can hear you.
I'm Titus Buru from Kenya.
Hi, Titus.
I'm a Kikuyu speaker from Kenya. Currently, my question is, my first degree was not in education. I did a mathematics at IT, but currently I'm a specialized in education, where I'm also taking a course in a postgraduate in education, for which is ongoing. Do I qualify to apply for that position?
Yes, based on what you've said, I would say yes, you qualify. You have subject domains as expertise in mathematics, and you speak the language, and you're already doing some bit of work to show that you have some bit of education experience. Without looking, I would say yes, you qualify, and I would encourage that you apply.
So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Titus, and look forward to your application. Hi, Elijah. Please unmute and ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Elijah. Good evening.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to ask about the local Lozi or the Lozi language, which is currently not listed in the said standard nomenclature. I teach my pupils in a rural setup, and the challenge we face is communicating to them in English. So most of the time we have to translate, we have to use the local language. Yeah, so when I came across PhET Sims, yeah, it was quite I was really interested in using them, and I have been using them, and pupils seem to love them and respond so well. But the language barrier is still an issue. So I was wondering who should list the Lozi language in that nomenclature and get it ready for translation and consideration for translation.
And thank you for raising that important question. So the challenge with Lozi is there is the International Standards Organization nomenclature for languages, and like the languages we currently support aligns with that. Unfortunately, Lozi at the moment has not been classified or structured or included in that list. And it's the only reason that we are unable to. So by that, it means there's additional effort required or engineering work to be able to support that. And while we would love to get there, we are unable to do that now, but it's part of the languages we're looking at, and once we're able to fix the engineering or get the engineering done, we'll be happy to get to it. So the reason again is it's currently not supported by the language structure, standardized language nomenclature by the International Standards Organization. So the current infrastructure does not support it, but it's going to be a priority language in the future, but it requires some bit of work that once we get to, we'll write to everyone. I'm going to take note of your name now and add it to the waiting list for Lozi, so that once we get to that and we can support it, we'll get in touch with you. And we'll be happy to ensure that learners and speakers of Lozi also can access this tool and PhET simulations in their language.
All right, I think I'll keep from.
We lost you there, Elijah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, hi, Solomon. I think it's your turn to ask now.
Okay, thank you. Already I introduced myself before. I'm Solomon, for those who came late from Ethiopia. I know PhET before 6-7 years. I used for my basic students and also to teach high school teachers. Also, I used for that purpose before 6-7 years. I know it by my colleague from UK. He told me to use this PhET, and then I used it, and it was good, and it helped me a lot. My background, it is my degree from BSc, MSc, and PhD also in physics. So I speak I know it's the science well. So I know I work with high schools, and we have also, as I told you before, we have also STEM center. I know how much it is expensive to buy chemicals, to buy electronics kits, how much it is, which is not affordable for schools to get those electronics kits, chemicals. Now this one, it simplifies life, okay? Even easily, they can understand the science. So on behalf of me, so just I am ready, okay? In any way, I will give my aim to support, and I am your part, okay? Just to show you my collaboration. So I am ready in all ways, okay? Just thank you very much for even for giving me the opportunity, okay, in this way. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Solomon. And I'm not sure, you were breaking a bit, so I can't make sense of, I didn't make sense of all that you were saying. But yeah, definitely we look forward to having you on the network. And yeah, thank you for your interest. Emmanuel, it's your turn now. Please, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Emmanuel, do you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you speak a little louder, please? We can make sense of, we can make out what you're
Yes,
saying.
my name is Emmanuel Mushimiyimana from Rwanda. I studied biology and chemistry.
Emmanuel, you're muted now. We lost you there. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you now. We lost you at some point.
Okay, my name is Emmanuel Mushimiyimana from Rwanda. I studied biology and chemistry with education A0 or bachelor degree. This is the good idea of simulation set, which will help students to help them to understand more about the science, because in Rwanda there is some school which has not raw materials for laboratory. This will help us to increase the performance for students. So the question that I have is this: I really want to ask if you will increase the simulation phase for biology and chemistry, because the most of them is physics. Will you increase the more available simulation phase for biology and chemistry, or we can help one for each other to make those? Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Yes, we are constantly exploring efforts and opportunities to make more SIMs available. Of course, we started translating PhET SIMs and physics. We started translating physics simulations or physics concepts, and I would say that's the primary reason why PhET physics, along with also have been having a lot more physical and components to play with, or being more physical in nature. It's the reason. So yes, we are constantly exploring effort, but we also rely on support from, of course, our partners and donors to be able to make that available. But are we going to make more chemistry and physics and more simulations available? Yes, we're constantly working on SIMs, and as much as we can within our power, we will make more SIMs available across all the domains.
Okay, very good, Kabis. If anyone has any idea of one simulation from biology or chemistry, can you help him or her to develop that? Or you will help us to know how we can make the simulation effect in a device?
Okay, yes, we welcome contributions, but the challenge is there's a long list of SIMs that we're currently working on, and of course, SIMs in the pipeline. So while we welcome your contributions, we cannot clearly, I cannot guarantee that it will be worked on right here and then once you send it in, but at least we welcome that. And in terms of being able to translate that, it requires a kind of different skill set from what you need in the classroom. So it means you can understand code and write code, but all of the PhET SIMs, all of the code for PhET SIMs are publicly available on GitHub. So if you have the skill set to do that, definitely we welcome you to take a look, dive in, and then see what you can make of that as well. There's also a community on Google Groups where you can post questions when you have available. Some community can answer to some of the some of the questions you might have. But for starters, it is important that the skill set you require is more than what you typically would have as a teacher in the classroom. You require like software engineering skills to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Excuse me again, sorry. So thank you, everyone. I'm hopeful that we've answered everyone's question. Just to check, I see PhET is trying to connect. PhET, do you have a question for us? Okay. So I hope we've answered everyone's question from our end. That's about all we have, but I'm curious to know as well, like what questions do you have for us? We have a few questions for you as well. What do you expect of the translator network? Does this program meet your expectation based on, of course, the examples and the way I've described it? And do you want to apply? Why or why not? So you can write in the chat, or if you want to speak directly, you can unmute and just answer to some of these questions. Yeah, please go ahead, Mama Kamse. Thank you. You can unmute. You're still muted.
Oh, is that okay?
Yes, I hear you. We hear you good now.
Okay, it's not a question per se. It's just that I would like to encourage everyone to apply, because I've translated into Sesotho, and so far it has helped most of my rural area schools, and the teachers have thanked me so very much, because they really have they have used them in Sesotho, and this has just helped their teaching, and the students are very happy. And I would like to encourage everyone to apply. It really works. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your feedback, Mama Kamise. Mama Kamise was from the last cohort as well, and of course, it was great working with her, and she's still supporting effort in Sesotho. So I'm curious, does anyone want to give a response to the questions, especially the new ones? Titus, if you don't mind, let's just take it round and we'll come back to you in a bit. Does the program meet your expectation? What do you expect of the network? Perhaps something we've missed out that you would love to see. We love to hear. And I'm curious to know as well, why would you or why would you not apply? Peter, I'm not sure. I was hoping you'd write in the chat so that we can take your question. But if you can unmute now, then yes, please go ahead and unmute if you still have a question. Your sound looks okay now, so you're still muted. Should have a request to unmute now.
All right, so I'm online now, right?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, yeah. To tell you the truth, I couldn't hear whatever thing that you people start saying, but I just got in and then I've realized I heard the other woman who just left her chat. I want to know how this works. For instance, I want to go to the Gan Adangme area because that's where I am comfortable. And I want to know how this one works on the PhET simulation. I got this first simulation when I was in a university, when one of our lecturers who is doing the PhD used it for us, and it was very, very good. I like it so much. And that's what I'm using for my student. I usually use it for my student as a physics teacher. So I want to know how you want us to go to our local area to use it for them. I just want to know that.
Okay, great. What language, what other language other than English do you speak?
I speak Gan, you know Gan?
Yeah.
I know Gan, I speak Dangme. I speak Chi.
Okay, great. So that's you're from Ghana, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we do not expect you to go directly into schools. The first step over the next 2 months is to be able to translate the same into any of the languages that we currently support. And to do that, all you require is a computer, internet connection, and then a camera and a mic for us to have the similar interactions that we're having now. And from what you've said, you speak a language, you have experience using PhET, and you are comfortable reading and writing one or more of these languages, then you most likely qualify already, like from just the interaction.
Right.
So that's all you need. You do not need any additional software, no installation required. You can do it within a browser. We just grant, once you get selected, you have access to the translation utility. You just sign in with your credentials and you can translate within the browser. Between 30 minutes to 2 hours, you can translate one or more things.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Then I think I should be able to do that so easily. Yeah.
Okay, great. And just to add, the recording for the session is going to be made available.
Okay.
So just check the link, the information guide. The link is going to be put in there, and there might be an email as well that goes out to everyone, especially those who missed out.
Right. That would be cool.
And also just catch up, and for anything you need, all of it is recorded, and you can still relive everything you did not hear while you were struggling with the audio.
Right. Grateful. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. So looking forward to your application.
Is that?
I said, thank you, Peter. I look forward to receiving your application.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll do that.
Okay. Hi, Evans. The floor is yours. You can unmute now.
Thank you very much. You can hear me, eh?
Yes, we hear you good.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, this is quite, I've used PhET before for my class, but mostly in undergraduate physics, and I think they are helpful. They're quite helpful. Okay, I'm putting my head for Shona, which is a Zimbabwean language. And yes, to answer your questions, I think the questions that you put, I think it meets this whole translation will meet my expectations, because I believe that if students learn because I teach physics, which has got some very misunderstood concepts, and because one of the reasons is because it's taught in a language which is not familiar to the students. What I think may be challenging for me, I'm based in South Africa. I've been here for quite a while, although I studied in Zimbabwe and my native language is Shona. But I may lack the experience of how can I put this? I explain the concepts in the technical language. Maybe translating the concepts in Shona per se. But I think there is quite a network of other Zimbabweans that I know in Zimbabwe that can be helpful, maybe in providing words that can, because I think we normally in Zimbabwe the language of instruction has always been mostly English. So there's never been, say, a development of these technical concepts to translate, or maybe I'm not familiar with that. Probably if I do more research, I may find that there is of translating some of the concepts, the technical or scientific terms into Shona. Yeah. So I don't know. Probably in this network, if I apply, and yeah, I can probably get help and maybe also develop in those areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Evan. Very, very valid observation and question. So that's part of the things we're going to address on the very first call. And what I was going to say as well is the concern is not only applicable to Shona. So it's a general, like African languages are that most science literature is not available in African languages. So that's part of why some of the work we're doing is actually very important. So while you can leverage the network of other language professionals, you have to be able to validate some of the bits. There are structures or frameworks that you can consider when you're translating. And we will discuss all of that at the beginning, and then also guide and support each other through the journey. Some of them might be straightforward, some of them might be a bit technical, and we will walk past it. As in, it's not going to be as much a challenge, like I think you are envisioning at this point, but we'll get past it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Evans.
That
So
encourages
first
me.
session, we're
I'll
going
put
to have
my-
sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying thank you. That encourages me. I'll put my application.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay. I know Akpan wanted to say something, Mama Kamisa. I think I'll take Akpan just before I come back to you. And thank you so much for joining. We're almost at time. So if you still have a question or contribution, especially those who are joining us for the first time, this is the very good time to ask. Once we take the feedback from Titus, if he still has to share, and Mama Kamise, then we'll start we'll start wrapping up for the day unless there's another question. Titus, is there a question?
No, this one is not a question. I want to give a kind of a feedback from what I did during the translation program.
Great. So we love to hear.
Yes. The issue was that I didn't really go actually to teach the student how to use the language in the classroom, because I'm into training the pre-service teachers, so secondary school teachers under my training. So they conducted some projects in group and some did it individually. So they now coined a strategic method to teach the concept of quadratic graph. They said it is PhET manipulative instruction. So what they did was they combined the English version and the local language to teach students the concept of plotting quadratic graphs. So they were able to use the mobile app version effectively to do that. And they came up with some interesting results that those who they taught using the combination of English language and the local language showed more interest, and they were motivated to learn the concept effectively. So that was the result that we had. And that alone give them some scores, and they were able to pass their exams as a project student. So it's also an aspect that we are going to maybe publicize the results in some journals and then see much more results coming out so that more people will be aware of this program. So that's the kind of feedback I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's another thanks so much for Titus. I think I'll connect to learn more about the work you're doing in that regard, and especially talks around sharing the findings as well with the larger community. Okay,
thank you.
Last but not the least, Mama Kamise, over to you as we start the wind down.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. I was wondering is it possible to separate the Sesotho platform and the South African Sotho, because it seems like after translating the simulation into Sesotho, then the South African translator also turns that translation into Sotho, which is totally different, and it means other words are totally different. So, for example, in Sesotho, when we have an H in South African Sotho, Southern Sotho, they have a G. So it gives us different meanings altogether. So is it possible to separate those platforms and have Sesotho and South African Sotho or Southern Sotho?
Yes, at the technology level, I think that's more like the naming. So I think the first thing we'll have to do is have both of you connect. Maybe I'll set up a call for for all three of us to connect and then talk through how we manage this, as so that, of course, we're not conflicting or changing things back and forth, and we can then agree on the ground rule to know how to manage this. But on the engineering bit, it's just one locale that is supported that is similar to both. So we just need to find, so that cannot change. We just need to agree on the rule to guide both of us, and perhaps clearly communicate to students what the expectations are if any component is becoming confusing as a result. Because the last thing we want to do is get students confused from using the scenes when the transition is done. The goal is to help make learning a lot easier and accessible to more learners, not the otherwise. So I'll set up a call. I'll contact with you, Mama Kamise. So maybe check out the other South African translator as well, and just agree on the rule to guide that process.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. So I just want to come in.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I just want to come in. So what we're doing, are we going to write it in our language or just verbally record translating what we are teaching the students in our language without writing it, or putting it in our writing to the student? Because in Ghana we write our exams in English, and yes. I think when we explain it verbally in our local language to the student will understand it more than writing it in our language for the student. So I want to know what the program is, whether we write it whilst we are teaching, we'll be writing it in our language and then transmitting it, or it's only the verbal one.
Okay, Peter, I think first thing is, please stay a little longer so I can answer the question. I don't want to keep everyone here for longer than their agreed time. We have to close in an hour. And my next advice is the recording will be made available. So I think I would strongly advise that you catch up on the session so that all of the questions that you've asked will be answered. But if you stay back, I'll be happy to answer the question while we just wind as in close and let everyone else.
Right.
Have an amazing evening, right? Is that okay?
That's cool. No problem.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. Sorry, just a minute. Emmanuel is, I just saw this. It means that if the language of instruction is in English, I can keep my application. Yes, so even if the language of instruction is English, what we've learned or observed is students in rural parts of all countries are not effective speakers of English, so they do not read English very, very well. And I won't go into the numbers around the literacy level across the continent. So if a student speaks other language that is not English, this can also help accelerate or facilitate the learning process, so that they are not speaking English will not remain a barrier for them. So whether or not it's a language of instruction, once they are learning themselves or through assignments, or even code switching between English and their local language to make sense of the concept, if that's going to provide additional opportunities for deeper learning, then definitely that's another use case for learners. So because English is the language of instruction does not mean students will not find it useful in your locale. So we're on top of the hour. I would like to thank everybody who have joined. Of course, for those who are previous members and for those who are just joining for the first time, we're also always excited to find amazing educators like yourself, committed to supporting language across the continent, especially in their locale. And we look forward to receiving the applications. And in about a week, again, the application will close on the 20th. You should expect to hear back in about a week. And then network activities will start around the first week in June. We'll run for 2 weeks, for 2 months, and I can promise it's going to be an amazing time for you, and as well as the amazing students, as in many students you will be creating learning opportunities for us by the singular act of making it available in your locale. So thank you. We've come to the end of today's meeting. I look forward to receiving your applications and then hopefully in the community. Bye for now, everyone. Peter, please stay back. I'm still on the call. I'll take your question. Bye, Solomon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, so Peter, if anyone is staying back, that's fine. Peter, in answering your question first, please look at the recording. And if I understand your question, the translation process is not for your instruction in classroom. It is for the simulation alone. It means once you translate the simulation into, is it go or away around that region, all teachers can, or students can also go and then pick up the same sim, and they see the interface within the sim in your local language, and it's not written in English anymore. So they can then create instruction or activities or learning experiences to support that. And to do that, like I explained, you do not need anything. You just need to look at you need to understand the way the sim works, explore and play with the sim, look at all of the strings within the sim. Usually they are between about 40 to 100. And some of them have already been translated. So some of them, you might be starting from about 50%, 60% already done. You complete the entire sim, you publish, and once a student open it, or a teacher, if they do not speak English, even though they can make sense of it, understanding the words that they can make sense of can also ensure that they learn that properly. Does that answer your question? So we don't expect, it does not change what you're doing in classroom. It's just ensuring that the sim is accessible. And to do that, you go into a website that will give you access to play and review this of the simulation, translate the strings, and then click on save, publish, and that is all you have to do. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. You're muted. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll send an email that includes the link to the recording. You can expect that tomorrow, so that you can still catch up. And for anyone who, of course, who is not on the call, maybe other members who might have missed out, did not join, or any teacher in your community that you think would find it beneficial, please feel free to spread the word and share with everyone.
Right, that's cool. That's cool. Right, thanks.
Okay, that's everyone. Thank you for joining, and we look forward to having you in the network. Bye.